Only once we've learned to truly connect every aspect of life will we receive the insight to calmly map our journey. "2016 was undoubtedly a trying year, which made us try harder. We connected the dots, considered our options, and started mapping our path forward."
Die afgelope jaar het vir ons gewys dat toestande hou nie noodwendig aan soos dit begin het nie. Ek dink toestande verander vinnig. Ons kom agter dat ons as boere ook vinnig moet aanpas en selfs ons as organisasie Graan Suid-Afrika moet aanpasbaar wees om by hierdie veranderlike omgewing te kan byhou.
We have to adhere to all these calls about climate change, and I think we have redirected a lot of our research. So over this period, the past year, we have spent a lot of time to utilize the drought as an instigator to make changes to some of the structures and some of the spending as far as that's concerned.
Selfs waar dit nou nat is en waar dit goed is en die oeste mooi lyk, gaan toestande ook weer verander en ons moet daarbey ook ons verandering in gedagte hou.
One of the things that we've learned is the capacity of farmers to produce and to actually plant. Between the period of the 15th of January and the end of January, the farmers have planted 700,000 hectares in a matter of 10 days. The farmers took that risk. It didn't pay off because we didn't get follow-up rain. And that is, tough times for the industry, and people have to endure and find new ways of mitigating the risk of climate. And I think this is where a lot of the actions that Grain SA is taking is trying to assist us farmers to be sustainable at the end of the day, irrespective of these weather changes that we're experiencing.
Along with plans being devised for sustainability of farming, the impact of the drought on the value chain presented its own challenges.
All of a sudden we went from like an export-orientated industry to a big importing country for this particular year. And that caused a lot of conflict between the grain farmers and the buyers and the importers of the grain. The buyers want to import American maize, and we were concerned about the GMs and the unfairness of the trade if they've got access to certain GMOs and we don't. There was this threat that we're going to run out of food, and we had to deal with those sort of things and the special circumstances that we had, particularly in this year.
With the imports came a rise in food prices, causing the whole country to sit up and take note of agriculture.
We have drawn up a lot of plans and submitted a lot of figures and all of that, but I think in the end what came through was that the private sector got together and said, we need to do something. We can't just wait for government to get through all the processes of cabinet and treasury and all of that. And the private sector put some funds together, and Agri SA managed that for the agriculture sector as a whole. Initially, we've planned for almost the worst case scenario in terms of our budget, in terms of cutting spending, and we got a lot of surprises. I think the staff became creative. They found new ways to resolve some of these matters. NAMPO was a new record of attendance. NAMPO was new records in terms of the profit that we made out of it to fill in for the gaps because the farmers weren't able to pay according to their crops that they had because of the drought.
Input suppliers also showed their support, despite the fact that they too were challenged by the drought.
In hierdie moeilike jaar was dit ook vir ons as boere baie belangrik om nie net na jouself te kyk nie, maar ook na die omgewing. En hier spesifiek het die insetverskaffers, die landboubesighede, 'n groot bydrae gemaak tot die voortbestaan van landbouers. Baie van die agribesighede en insetverskaffers het werklik 'n verskil kom maak by boere op plaasvlak.
I mean, they came to the table with new schemes and extension of the times that the farmers have to pay, and they helped us. Our farmer development program ran out of money, and they stepped in and helped us with substantial numbers of money. So there's a belief in the sustainability of farming and grains going forward. And they said, let's help each other through this difficult period, and then we can sustain at the end of the day.
Die politieke omgewing is konstant besig om te verander. En dit wat in die politiek besig is om te verander, impakteer by ons in die graanbedryf ook. Die afgelope tyd het ons veral baie gehoor van die staat wat grondhervorming vinniger wil laat gebeur. En een van die maniere hoe hulle dit raak gesien het, is deur die geld wat lê in die verskillende graantrusts. Dit te gebruik en dit aan te wend spesifiek vir transformasie en om hulle eie doelwitte te bereik. En hierdie het baie duidelik geïmpakteer in die verhoudinge binne die Graan Trust die afgelope tyd.
In the maize trust or the winter cereal trust, where there's 50-50% representation between industry and minister, we're experiencing there's political pressure, and all of a sudden it changed some of the priorities on that side. We've got drought on this side and it changed priorities on this side, and from this we have to find a new way forward.
Ek dink van dit is besig om te normaliseer. Die staat het begin besef dat hierdie geld eintlik vir ander goed aangewend moet word.
Amidst the uncertainty, the pressure to deliver research results against rising odds called for the creation of an independent cultivar-focused body.
The Winter Cereal Trust is responsible to collect the statutory levy on all the winter cereals, pay it into the trust, and then they fund research and information and market access. And what has happened is that they were also responsible for breeding, but we didn't get the necessarily result that we were looking for in terms of the improvements in yields. What we thought was to revamp the whole system and to pay a levy into another organization, which we call SACTA, it's the South African Cultivar and Technology Agency, and they then only pay the money out according to the performance, and we couldn't do it through the Winter Cereal Trust, therefore we had to form this new organization. So the industry need to go through some changes to make improvements. We need to get the farmers more profitable, and this was the drive behind it.
Yet, when the common ground between government and private sector is nourished, it truly feeds progression. In this regard, Grain SA's initiative to link farmer development structures and key agricultural suppliers to the government's Jobs Fund program has seen tremendous results. Communal land farmers, previously unable to even feed their households, are now harvesting enough for domestic use to fatten up livestock and sell for extra income.
The other partnership that's really working well is with the Department of Science and Technology, where they are acknowledging the needs of agriculture, where they help us with funds and co-funding projects, and even with international relationships between governments to get the latest technology to South Africa and to try and improve our germplasm that we breed our varieties, whether it is wheat or maize or soya beans or whatever, so that we can increase our yields and our profitability of our farmers.
The focus on reviving the local wheat farming industry is paying off. In 2016, significant breakthroughs were made.
We have looked at this conflict where we have increased the quality of wheat over time in South Africa, but we haven't been increasing the yield to the same extent. So we have started to engage with the buyers, we start to relax the release criteria, and in the end the government actually decided to withdraw it from the Product Standard Act that was part of the grading regulations, and it now allows us to have a wider window of different qualities. And I think this is what the farmers and the breeders were looking for, just a little bit more space. We're not going to drop the quality in total because the buyers are still our customers that we have to look after. But in the end, I think we will be able to compete on a more equal level now with some of the Black Sea countries importing wheat to South Africa.
A lot of effort also went into the tariff for wheat imports.
The minister approved the whole wheat tariff system. And at the time when it triggered and it had to increase, SARS in the end made a decision they don't want to publish it because it is going to be bad politics. And because of the slowness of their reaction, we initially started a court case against them. And the day when the court case was supposed to be heard, they have actually published it. And then a few weeks later, the tariff triggered again. And again, there was a lack of performance from their side. And we prepared a case, and the case was heard in Pretoria, and it was published the next day. So it wasn't an inability, it was actually a little bit of unwillingness according to what has happened.
While dealing with current issues, Grain SA's links with strategic partners are opening up pathways to the future.
Our laboratory has been expanded, the grains laboratory has been expanded, bringing in some new products in terms of testing for chemical residues and those sort of things. We've seen the boom in the Grain Academy, our young leaders that's gone through a process, and it is actually a postgraduate qualification that they get at the end of this course. So there's a new network of leaders being developed which will serve the industry in due time. So this is very positive for us.
Ek dink eenheid binne landbou is uiters belangrik. Ons verstaan oor 10 jaar kan ons nie meer lyk soos ons vandag lyk nie. Ons kan nie gesegregeer word in rassegroepe nie. So ons sal iewers moet by mekaar kom en mekaar moet praat. En ek dink hierdie bedrywe die voortou geneem en dit hoe die bedrywe vandag lyk is baie anderster as wat dit 10 jaar terug was. En ek dink die res van georganiseerde landbou sal moet kers vashou en sal moet bykom om die produsent op grondvlak te vestig. Aan die einde van die dag is ons groter behoeftes kommersieel opkomend is eintlik dieselfde en ons sal moet saamkom en uit een mond begin praat. En selfs gaan Suid-Afrika moes bietjie na binne gaan kyk en dis hoekom ons vir jaar na Kongres toe kom met 'n grondwetverandering en sekere aanpassings wat ons wil maak om beter geïntegreerd te raak vir die toekoms.
In this past year, we actually had to turn on the handbrake and just calm down, listen carefully to each other, listen to what God is saying, what is the direction that we have to move going forward.